I have another question for you from Mary Waldering. She said, as a writer of historical fiction, does she make, do you make a dividing line between historical fiction, speculative historical fiction, and historical fantasy, like Mary writes? And how would you classify each if you do?
I don't write historical fantasy or speculative historical, so I have no knowledge of those genres, unfortunately. I wouldn't know. I mean, Queen of Sheba is historical erotica, and it definitely has elements of fantasy because she was half jinn or half genie. And so there are some magical elements to it. I wouldn't classify it as a fantasy, though. Although some fantastical things happen. The same thing with The Impaler's Wife. There are some mystical, would be more mystical elements happen because because that's kind of one of the things he's interested himself in. And so I take something that was prevalent at the time and kind of merge it with his interest and what he's known to have been interested in. But I wouldn't call it historical mysticism either, just elements of. So I think if you're writing those specific genres, you really just need to really study what the expectations of those genres are, because all genres have expectations, and I don't want to say rules, but like a code. And it's not so much, it's for the reader, because when the reader goes to a genre that they like, that's what they want to see. So if a writer is going to write it, they want to please their reader. And if they don't do enough of whatever the reader is looking for, then you piss off the reader.
It's so interesting because I feel like a lot of authors have a problem with that sometimes, like figuring out what genre they are, because I feel like every book has so many different elements in. There's always probably more than one, but it's hard to find that one main one to see where it fits.
And that was another YouTube I did, was know your genre. And when somebody tells me that their book is like 5 different genres, I'm like, no, you haven't. No, choose one. Choose one. So it can have elements of things in them, but you really have to understand, like, what when people going on to Barnes and Noble or Amazon, or they're typing in maybe that genre and they're looking for those specific elements. So your book has to nail it. And if you're wishy-washy about it, you're not giving them what they want. And, I maybe like I would compare, like if you're going through the drive up at McDonald's and you ask for a hamburger. Let's say you want a Big Mac and a fry and a chocolate shake, and they give you a Big Mac and a fry and a Coke. And you're like, I wanted my chocolate shake, right? And you're pissed. You go back to it. I want my chocolate shake. Like, you could taste the chocolate shake. You were waiting for the chocolate shake, but they gave you Coke. So I think people need to know their genre, what they need to do before they write it.
I know, really great comparison and visual. I appreciate that. Do you think authors can work backwards, like write their story and then kind of tick off the boxes of, like, does it fit in this category the most, or should it be the other way around?
In teaching, and in a lot of different professions, there's something called backwards planning. So that's know what you have to do and then fill in the elements. And as a writer, as a teacher, that's what I do. So I want to know what I need to do first before I write it. Otherwise, now that's not to say you can't. Some people like, I'm going to do my thing. Great. Do your thing. I'm not saying you can't do but then don't be surprised when it doesn't get picked up by an agent or people, or it isn't selling. You can't be surprised by that then.
Yeah, that other side of it is so specific on how it has to fit.
Right. If you just want to freewheel it, great. Also, if you're famous, you can do anything. And they'll go, but so-and-so did it. Yeah, but they're famous. They could just do anything they want and it will sell because of their name. But if you're not famous, like I said, you need to give them the chocolate shake.
I love that. That is going to be forever my visual of that. That is so great. Let's see. We have a couple more questions. Sharon, she said, I'm actually glad we're going to talk about this because I loved the visual of like your first 2 pages in Goddesses Inc. with the setting. And I instantly thought of the series Loki, like the TVA.
Okay, I haven't
that setting.
I haven't watched that or read that.
Oh, yeah. If you see it, it's just, that's where my mind went with the description of the setting. It was so cool. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is a great start. This is cool. So Sharon was wondering about, she noticed that she didn't see a mention of the 4th floor. Was there a reason that wasn't mentioned? Is that something that might come into play, or did she miss it? She was, there was some intrigue there for her.
Oh. Well, maybe there'll be a second book.
I wanted to ask you that. I would love that. Your book is so amazing. Like, I want to stay in it. I would love to see that be a series.
I had a few people say that they want more of the world, and I would like to give them more of the world, except I have to have a story. I have to have a conflict, and there's some stuff percolating in my brain, but also I have other things. The job is really cutting in on my writing time.
Right?
I told my husband, do you know how many books I could get out? I could get out at least 3 a year. And he's like, honey, you make good money. Stay with your job. Like, collect your pension in a few years.
Yeah, when you're so close now, especially too. And I know it's taking your toll on you, you're saying, but I really appreciate the writing you're doing. I loved reading your book, and that you're hanging in there and keeping it all going and sticking with your passion too, even though you have to fit it in. I find that so amazing what you're doing.
I think a lot of us, most of us have to fit it in because it's our side jam.
Yeah.
And I think if you can do it full time, then you are super lucky. I know a lot of best-selling authors who are still working full time. So, and people think, how is that possible? Well, they're not giving out $1 million bonus, they're not giving you $1 million for it. Maybe at best they give you 100,000. And in California, New York, that's not taking you very far at all.
Unfortunately.
So yeah, you can't live on that. And you don't know, you're only as good as your next book. And you just don't know what's going to happen. So the only people who are really, doing that, maybe it's the few and far between. So I think most of us are just kind of cramming it into finding time to do it because it fills our soul. Fills our soul.
I love the way you word things. That's so beautiful. It does. Fills the soul.
Thank
you. Sharon squeaked in another question too, right before the interview that came in.
Okay.
She was wondering, she noticed when she was reading, she felt like the mortal characters, like their full name was mentioned the whole way through. And she was wondering if you did that on purpose to kind of differentiate easily between like who was a goddess and who was mortal.
I did that because the goddesses don't have last names. I don't know any goddess. Zeus Smith. Yeah, I don't. So, when I did that, I'm like, yeah. And we our own goddesses, Cher, Madonna, there's people, Drake, they don't have last names. If we don't know them. Right. So I didn't want to make up a last name, and how would so I just, and the last names, yeah, a lot of times to differentiate, them or to give some clues. For example, the hot senator, Flores, And
I like that description, the hot senator.
uh, he needed something that went with his character. No spoilers here.
No spoilers. No, I don't want any spoilers coming out either. One of our members, David Itzier, he follows on YouTube and he's under his channel name Cactastic. He had put a comment. The books look really good. I read a few reviews and everyone seems to really enjoy Goddesses Inc. Goddesses here in the mortal world sounds like a great plot. I'm very excited for this one. And I love that he mentioned your reviews because I read your reviews too on Goddesses Inc. and they're fantastic.
You know what? I don't read my reviews.
No, you don't.
I never read reviews. I did in the beginning when I first started, and then I stopped because I'm just too angsty, and I write for me. I write for me and for what I think people will like. And I love reviews. I appreciate all the reviews. You know, authors need reviews, but I don't need to read them. And I remember my daughter once in a while, she'll call me up and she'll say, there was one up there. She's like, do you know there's a 1-star on the Impaler's Wife? I mean, which Kirkus reviewed is great. I mean, Kirkus took it like a whole bunch of places too, because it got this amazing review and they did all this marketing for it. And which was like, I guess, very rare. But and she said, yeah, it said the author is in love with S&M. And they gave it a 1-star. And she said, it comes up first. Should I give it a thumbs down? I said, I don't know. She said, it's intriguing because it makes you read the other reviews. I said, you know what? Leave it up. I don't care. Like, if that's, to me, reviews say more about a lot. Well, that particular review said more about the reader who picked out a couple bizarre scenes from a, 100,000 word book. Then, so yeah, I don't read reviews, but okay, you can finish with your question.
I feel like it's one or the other. Either authors are like, yeah, I read them and I take them to heart, or I just can't because I take them to heart. Like, it's that mix.
The only ones that I read is when it first goes out on like historical fiction bloggers or something like that will that I sent it to, or the people who always ask for my arcs, those kind of things. I will look at those reviews because I might take little lines from them. I'll read the Kirkus review, of course, so I can like pull a line or something from it to put onto Amazon or use in a promotion. But the others, I know a lot of people just scour their reviews on Goodreads and that, and I don't, because one, it just wasn't good for my soul. It wasn't good for my anxiety level. I'm an anxious person by nature, and it wasn't doing me any good. And I feel much calmer. And I just, what I look at, am I selling books every month?
There you go.
So
now, even though you don't read reviews, I know reviews are important to help get your work out there.
Oh, 100%. And they're for the readers. They're for readers, not really for writers.
Yeah, and it helps. I mean, I'll skim. I like to skim, but I mean, like you say, no spoilers. Sometimes there's spoilers, so that's kind of why I skim sometimes too. But where can we all leave reviews after we've read your book that'll help you out? Where are all your books found? Are you on Barnes and Noble and everything?
Yeah, wherever, whatever the platform is. All of my books except for the Merkaba series are on every single platform.
Perfect. And so like Amazon, Goodreads, BookBub, Barnes and Noble, trying to list them all off.
Yeah, they're all on there. I think the Merkaba series is just on Amazon.
Okay.
So it's on Amazon, on Goodreads, but I'm almost never on that Goodreads page. It's very hard to manage 2 social media accounts, so I just do the one.
There's a lot to be done on Goodreads, and I always go on and I do reviews, but I've never really explored just how much there is. I didn't realize
There's
it is its own platform. There's so much.
yeah, it is. So yeah, anywhere that you want to leave it is great and very, very much appreciated. Of course, of course. I reviews, I know there are a lot of writers who love to ask for reviews, and yes, we need reviews, but you know, people don't like writing them, and I understand that. As English teachers, they don't want to write, they don't want to feel judged when they write, and sometimes they're like, I just really liked it, I don't know what else to write, you know, and an author will be, well, that's great, and you know, that all helps. The reviews help. You see something with a lot of reviews, and the only thing I really read reviews for, I don't read reviews for fiction, because sometimes they're a little bit ridiculous. I do read reviews for like products.
Oh, yep, definitely.
Right. But I was on Target and I had got a over the door hanger for the kitchen. Like it hangs over the counter door, right? Like it hangs over the counter or the cupboard door. And it's just supposed to hold like bottle of Windex, and right. So there's a little slide. It's got a little slot for Windex or little cleaning products, right? And somebody had written, I'm giving this a 1 star because it won't hold my paper towels. And then another person said, I'm giving this a 1 star because it doesn't fit over my drawers. It's got the measurements on there.
I think the same happens with book reviews, right? Like you just kind of look like, okay, well, yeah, sometimes. Well, if it makes you feel any better, your Goddesses Inc. book on Amazon has a ton of amazing 5-star reviews.
Oh, awesome.
I loved it. And I thought of a couple questions from reading the reviews.
Okay.
So one of them, they said they were really excited to learn about goddesses they didn't know about before. For Goddesses Inc., for anyone who is not maybe a mythology enthusiast, what can they expect when they're reading?
Okay, so you don't have to know your mythology. You don't have to know it at all. I didn't want it to be about like, oh, I know all my mythology. Okay. And when I was, you know, coming up with the idea for this book, I wanted it, there's mythology from every corner of the earth, all around. And they're like underrepresented, right? They're marginalized and they're gone. They've disappeared a lot. And we don't have them in literature, or they were mostly only like oral literature, right? So the Greeks wrote everything down, the Romans wrote everything down. And so I thought, you know, I just want to have them from everywhere. I want them to be multicultural. I thought that was super important. And, you know, that's why I did not include a Nordic goddess, because I already had a white goddess with Mnemosyne. And I said, no, I don't want a Nordic, even though there was a few to choose from. And I have a whole goddess book over here somewhere. And so I was looking for goddesses who were different. And I was looking for those who nobody knew about, because that's what the book is about. Nobody knows about them. I do refer to a few Greek goddess, a Greek or Roman, and I think one Celtic goddess, but it's not, there's like little quick references. So either you know them or you don't know them. And I put, I think, enough context clues in that you just bam and move along. This isn't like, I know more mythology than you do. No, I don't, because then you go, who's this? Why do I care about this person? But I think there was a reference to a Celtic goddess there who gets old, and then she has to marry some hot guy, and then she gets young again, and then she gets old, and it's a particular goddess. But I actually say that like, oh, that's okay. She's coming back young again as soon as she does this. So you understand immediately and you move along. So that's kind of embedded in the dialogue. So you don't have to know who's who to appreciate it. In fact, you're learning a little bit about goddesses that, like when I was doing a Franc-Narette, I didn't had any idea that of these beautiful boats, these wish boats that they made. And so when I was looking at information for these beautiful wish boats that they set on the river with their wishes, and I'm like, oh, and then you see the pictures and they were so beautiful. And I said, I have to work this into a scene. So a lot of my research, when I'm doing the research for it, it gives me ideas for scenes. So I usually tell people who are saying like, I've got writer's block, do more research, because then the scenes, womb, the scenes write themselves, because I immediately saw that whole scene with them putting their wish boats into the fountain.
That was a beautiful scene too, by the way.
Thank
I
you.
love that that came from research. That was really cool. I had wondered, I read it, I'm like, this is probably true. And I wanted to research myself after too, which I haven't done yet, but I'm like, God, this is so interesting and beautiful. Like it made me want to do research.
It was fun. It was really fun to, this book was written, Goddesses Inc. was written during COVID.
Oh,
And
cool.
it was a lot of fun to write. I needed something light and fun. And my historical fiction is not fun. it's you know, it's historical fiction. It's not, this is just like, this is like, you know, having a fun drink. This is like kicking it with the girls and having lunch in the afternoon and going for shopping. Like that's the kind of, that's what it is, you know, and that's what I needed during COVID.
Oh, I got that same feeling too, that vicarious, like I loved shopping with them, window shopping, and it felt lighthearted and like out in the world. And I got that resonated, you writing that
Good.
during that time. So that's really cool that it resonated with me like that. And to hear that that's when you wrote it and what you were doing. So that's really cool. I thought it was really fun. There was this playful review, 5-star, so many 5-star reviews. A reader said, grab a glass of goddess wine and get glued to this read. So I was curious. I read that you like wine tasting. So what do you think is the best goddess wine to have on hand while reading Goddesses Inc.?
Nemosini drinks wine, and then she also drinks another Greek drink. Of course, it had to be like a traditional Greek drink. But you know what? I think I almost feel like when I would read this, it would either be like, I feel like I should have either like a Prosecco or like a Cosmo.
I love it. I love it.
Because you want something like light and fresh and
sophisticated.
Those are also very sophisticated. So maybe some bubbly. I think bubbly. Something, no heavy dark reds. That would be a heavy dark red would definitely be for the Impaler's Wife.
Oh, I like this. You should give like a list of best wines for each read.
Yeah, that would be fun, right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Ray, you gave me something else to do.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
No, I've thought of that. I'm just like, oh, another day.